Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. Globe defender Sly Sparkane, who often makes videos against Flat Earth researchers, is raising funds for a bending water test, which he claims will prove once and for all that we live on a spherical Earth.
Well, hi everybody, and greetings from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. I saw this video come up on my YouTube suggestions, and I just had to have a look. Sly Sparkane is one of our better-known globe defenders on YouTube, and has done some really good work in the past. I understand he's getting ready to do a variation of the Bedford level. Looks like our friend Nick, or Phuket Word, is trying to short-circuit that a little bit. So I thought I'd have a look at this video and maybe record a few comments as I went through it. So let's go ahead and cue up the music and listen to the wisdom of Phuket Word.
So we'll have a look at what he proposes to do for this bending water test. And this is an opportunity, obviously, before he conducts the test, to point out the problems he's going to have, and my prediction that at the most, all that we will get is inconclusive results.
Well, as a proud member of Team Science, I'm going to go ahead and make some predictions too. Based on what I know of the setup, I'm going to predict that we are going to see 20 centimeters of curvature over 1,600 meters. And I predict that if the Earth is flat, we will see 0 centimeters difference. Since the 20 centimeters is an approximation based on the curve calculator and 0 centimeters is an absolute, if we see any drop whatsoever, that would disprove the flat Earth. Bottom line, they won't be ambiguous at all. 0 drop, flat Earth. Anything not 0, round Earth.
So let's hear what his proposal is, and then I'll just give a quick evaluation of what I think about this test.
Today's science deniers have many required proofs, the majority of which have been quite cleanly displayed or explained. But one thing still remains: proof of bending water around the Earth due to the force of gravity.
Okay, just a quick interruption there. He started off saying today's science deniers, referring to globe deniers. No, we're not denying science.
Well, Phuket, I find myself strangely in agreement with you. You are not science deniers. You are reality deniers. As Sly has mentioned, you have been shown these things many, many times before. Despite being presented with unassailable proof of curvature, of gravity, you refuse to see it, you refuse to admit it. You deny everything that does not fit your narrative. Not only do you deny it, you come up with whimsical and absurd explanations for what it would be other than the obvious. You know, what was it Mark Sargent came up with the other day? Volcanoes are caused by furnaces that are manned and run 50 miles below the ground, and the lava is pumped up into the volcanoes. But by all means, please continue. This is just starting to get good.
You are well aware there are no definitive tests to prove these models and theories and explanations. So it's not denying science. We are pointing out that there has been no scientific proof or measurement of the model or theory that we live on a globe Earth.
You mean like great circle routes between cities that only work on a sphere and work on the Earth? Not to mention, of course, we have pictures, dude. Look at that curve.
And of course, he is correct in the understanding that there is no such thing, or there has been no proof of bending water.
Anyway. You mean like that, Phuket? Why are those houses below the level of the water in that photograph? I'll give you a hint. It's because the water's bending around the curve of the Earth.
And even though it's a fact that water bends around the curvature of the Earth, as it is observed in every photo of objects disappearing from the bottom up as they move beyond the horizon, this does not seem to satisfy the skeptics.
Okay, again, he's claimed that these are facts that he's trying to prove. So really, he's not being very objective from the outset, and an observation like this is not consistent. This is the kind of observation that we might be able to make if we are very low to the surface, and of course it's due to perspective.
Okay, Nick, just a point of order here. We are not proving the curvature of the Earth. That's been done many, many times. We are demonstrating it, like I'm demonstrating 6,000 feet of missing mountain in this photograph right here. This is Mount San Jacinto from Malibu, California, 123 miles away, and that cross is at 6,200 feet.
When we look across a flat surface of water. But he's assuming here that seeing a boat do something like this is because it's apparently disappearing beyond some imaginary curve.
Well, actually, Fouquet, it's not an imaginary curve. Here's an actual rocket launch from 1946 showing the curve of the Earth. This is long before CGI was invented.
So right away we are starting with assumed facts. Doesn't seem like he's being very objective.
This does not seem to satisfy the skeptics. So I have designed a test. And with your help, I will be able to see this test through. This will be the solid, indisputable test to see if water, at rest, bends around the curvature of the Earth, remaining level to the center of the Earth, or if it remains perfectly straight as if level with a plane.
Yes, Nick, you are quite fond of saying water's always level, but you're also fond of saying the horizon rises to eye level, and as you can see with this, it doesn't. But if you admitted that the horizon didn't rise to eye level, your narrative of the flat Earth would be debunked. So you won't.
So here's the test. If you take two plastic tubes and set them up vertically, then you connect those tubes and put water in them, the water will create a level, regardless of the tube heights or thickness. And the connecting tube can literally be at any angle. It can be bowed up, it can be bowed down, and even laid in several different directions. The water will remain level. What I will be doing is placing connected vertical tubes 100 meters apart, across 1,600 meters, or just short of a mile. This will create 17 measuring points. Then 100 meters from there, I will have a camera to look down the line of filled and connected tubes. And although the terrain might be uneven, the levels will always remain level. When looking down the line with a camera, first I will place a marker on the first and last tubes at 1 centimeter below the water's level. Then I will align a straight line of markers on all the other tubes in between. At the same time, 15 centimeters above each one of those markers, I will place another line of markers. These two lines will be visibly and measurably parallel with each other. Then I will place a marker at the water height on each tube and check the results. If the water levels create an arc between the two parallel lines, the Earth is curved, and we can see that. If the water levels remain parallel to the two lines, then this will mean a flat plane.
Okay, Cy, I'm going to go ahead and stop you there for a second. What you're doing here is a variation of the Bedford level. I think we all recognize that, but you're overcomplicating it. You're also putting in an error that I think you may have overlooked. If you place 3 markers on each tube in reference to the level of the water, what you're going to do is you're going to get 3 curved lines that go down the entire line of pipes. Since we're only dealing with about 4 inches here, really all you need to do is mark the water level at each pipe. And then what you do is you sight in on the first one and the last one, and if any of those water levels are above that line, there you go.
Make no mistakes though, across this distance, the arc will only peak about 4 inches. So accuracy is going to be important, and good photos will be a priority. That's the entire test.
Alrighty, well, he's going to have $2,000 spare if he spends $1,000 on a new camera. So that's, as he said, going to be put towards potential future tests. But let's have a look at the problem here. Let's just go back to this bit.
Then 100 meters from there, I will have a camera.
Okay, this is essentially what he's going to do with the test. Now we have an orthographic view here of the test, and he's going to put the camera 100 meters away from the tubes, and herein lies the problem. This is the only location he's going to film from. So he's going to film from here. He's not going to film this side-on view. He's not going to take a photograph or video of what he will claim is going to be a curve or a bulge in this water across this 1600 meters.
Okay, so Fouquet is going to complain here that we're only going to see this particular view of all of those water pipes. Now, the reason being, of course, is that if there is any curvature, those middle pipes will be higher than the ones on either end. Since we're only talking about 20 centimeters or 4 inches over the course of the mile, we're going to have to look at it so that we see it. Now, as we get out to the side, as Fouquet very well knows because he's demonstrated this in his videos, as that angle gets closer to perpendicular to the line, or the orthographic view as he likes to say, that curvature or the difference in height is going to be very difficult to spot. Now, he of course knows this because he's demonstrated it in his own videos. However, let's go see what he has to say.
We're only going to be given this one particular view. Now, Sly understands perspective, and he uses it to his advantage to obfuscate the issue.
Okay, we're here getting lumber for building our bed, and I want to show you how to find a straight piece of wood. So what you do is you take the pieces of wood off, you set them down, you hold them up like this, and you look down them. So why don't you come take a look over here, see if you can see down this piece of wood with me. Right there. Now you can kind of see that's warped a little bit. It's curved over to the right. About halfway down, it's curved on down there. Now let's see, this is a piece that we decided we do like. Let's hold that one up as a comparison. And you can see it looks straight down. Right like that, just straight piece. Now, holding these two pieces side by side on the ground, they both look straight, right? They both look very straight.
Now, of course, Fouquet knows this little trick about picking out lumber. He knows that you're going to pick up the curve by looking down the line rather than holding them up and looking at them from the side. In fact, the only way you're going to pick up a 4-inch difference in the height of the water levels is looking straight down them. You will not be able to see it from side to side. It's too slight over 1 mile. And while anybody that's ever picked out lumber at the hardware store knows this, Fouquet is trying to bring this up as some sort of a question about the procedure. That's just a red herring in logic.
And as we saw at the beginning with the ship, this of course is the argument that globe defenders use to say that we see the effects of curvature, because we're always given this front view from the observer's perspective of a ship that appears to be going down a curve because it's reached the horizon.
Fouquet, of course, realizes that the horizon is directly in front of you. The only way you can look over the curve of the Earth is straight out. The horizon is actually at a fixed distance from you in a circle around you. Now, an example of that is the CN Tower in Toronto, Ontario, looking out across Lake Ontario. This is a shore-to-shore observation from 30 or 40 miles. Now, the take-home message from this is that the antenna on top of the CN Tower is about as long as the building underneath that little bulge there. They appear to be of equal lengths. However, when you look at the same building, you see that the length of the antenna is much shorter than the length of the tower underneath it. In the previous view, most of that tower was hidden by the curve of the Earth, and I might add, the lake curved with it. This isn't perspective, this isn't atmospheric lensing or water in the atmosphere or any of the other silly reasons that flat earthers like to cite. It's curvature of the Earth. And we know that because, given our observation height and the distance, we can predict almost exactly how much of that building will be missing behind the curve of the Earth. That simply can't be done with mirages or whatever reasons flat earthers like to cite. This is why I don't call those in the flat earth globe deniers. I call them reality deniers because they simply will not admit the reality of something as simple as these two pictures, preferring to misappropriate perspective and make up all sorts of bizarre and convoluted reasons.
Now, people have been making all kinds of observations from various different heights, and it is not always the case that we see ships doing this. Sometimes they just fade into obscurity. Once they are on the horizon, they remain on the horizon. The only reason we ever see ships appearing to disappear below a horizon is when we have a very low point of view above the surface. Once we get higher, we see that we are looking across a flat plane.
Of course, Nick. Time for your meds.
All right, so this in itself, again, this is why globe deniers demand that we have at least another view of this alleged curvature, a side-on view, such as, where is it?
Okay, Nick, here's where you misunderstand something. Reality deniers are not in a position to demand anything. If we look straight down the line of the water pipes at the levels and see curvature, which we can clearly demonstrate, you get to explain that. You don't get to ask questions or play but whatabouts. And if you can't explain it, welcome to the reality of the spherical Earth.
Then you also need to verify that. This would be a scientific method of verifying the observation is to observe it from this here.
No, Nick, it's been explained to you many, many, many times that you do not see curvature left and right. You see it front to back. So by saying that you won't accept the obvious front-to-back curvature unless you see the non-existent side-to-side curvature on the horizon.
Now, what's also interesting about this is that the location he has picked is right next to a canal, a much longer body of water. But he's going to do his experiment on land next to this body of water. So I find it quite ironic that here we have a stretch of water that is longer than the proposed site of the experiment. But he's not going to use this body of water to do any measurements. He's going to set up his own experiment on land.
Did it ever occur to you, Nick, that there might be a reason for that? Yes, the canal is a level stretch of water. However, you'd have to put poles out in the middle of that canal that have to be several feet off the ground. Since the levelness of the surface of the water or the land is not important in this test, again insisting that it be in the middle of a 100-foot wide canal and sunk to the bottom is just simply putting a logistical requirement on it that's unnecessary for the results of the experiment.
And we can see here the usual kind of results that we get when we look across a flat surface, but of course this disappearing of the bottom of these cyclists is a bone of contention among globe deniers and globe defenders.
Nick, that is reality deniers. Now, you can prove that to yourself by the fact that you just mentioned the irregularity of the sidewalk, whereas this is a water level test, and the water level is what is being measured. It doesn't matter what it's on or how irregular the sidewalk is. It's the level of the water. But just like picking out lumber at the hardware store, you know that the surface of the sidewalk, being level or not, doesn't matter. So really all you're doing is hedging your bets. You're first saying that, well, it should be done in the canal, and when they don't do it, you're going to say that's not good. And if they do it on the sidewalk, you're going to say the sidewalk's not level, even though that has nothing to do with the level of the water.
And this is exactly the same thing we see when we see ships. Let's have a look. Okay, so
As they move beyond the horizon.
here we have this optical this observation where we see ships appearing to sink down a curve beyond a horizon.
Seriously, Nick, there's nothing appearing about it. There's a curve on the horizon of the Earth, and that's what causes the horizon. You can see the curve right there. I mean, seriously, look, it's right there in front of you. The curved Earth.
So you have to decide, which is it? Is this a result of perspective, or is this a result of curvature?
Well, personally, I think it's a sidewalk going down a hill. So I guess the water level will give us a definitive answer, and I look forward to seeing it. You know, as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to run right over to that GoFundMe page and support this experiment. I think it's going to be a good one. Well, Sly, I think you're going to be very pleased with that donation. Just remember, I get my big perk, and I want my name on the front post on that test in nice big letters. Bob the Science Guy. Well, thank you all for stopping by. This is Bob the Science Guy signing out from Northern Michigan. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel.
This rabbit hole's too deep for me. Feel my brain getting real sore.